All right, everyone, we're going to go ahead and get started. I think we might have a few more people continue to trickle in. I think we had a couple more that we're kind of expecting tonight. And so, if you see some other people wandering in, just kind of ignore them while we come in. We have a bunch of food, we have a bunch of water, so please enjoy yourself tonight too. Try to eat and drink. Don't starve yourself. I'm going to be stuffing my face back in the corner. But welcome tonight. I appreciate everyone taking time out of their schedule to come out. This is something that I had personally been doing now for probably, I've done it at least once a year for the past, I think, 10 years. And I don't know if I think I've told a lot of people my story, but I'm just going to maybe kind of go back and tell you what got me started with this. How did you learn about purification or detoxification? And it started for me back in middle school, believe it or not. So kind of a weird story, but of all things, my mom had breast cancer. So she's a breast cancer survivor. Found out when she was in middle school. And yeah, and long story short, like she did the traditional medical route and saved her life. Thank God for her. She's here today because of it. So she had breast cancer, was a survivor. Life goes on, right? Probably about 10, 15 years later, I'm in chiropractic school, which is about 2004, 2005. And then she was diagnosed with thyroid cancer. So if you know about thyroid cancer, or known someone with thyroid cancer, basically how they cure you of thyroid cancer is they give you radioactive iodine. Iodine is in every single cell in our body, but the thyroid is the main organ in our body that uses iodine. And so the iodine goes to the thyroid, it's radioactive, it destroys the side of the thyroid, and in the process destroys the cancer. Once again, medical miracle, saved her life. She's here today because of it, but second time in her life she's had cancer. She does the treatment, right? She's cleared of cancer. She goes back to her medical doctor, her primary care doctor, and they wanted to do some basic labs and basic blood work to see kind of where you're at after your body's been through all this. And so she did that, got her blood work back, and her medical doctor told her that her liver enzymes had just skyrocketed. To the point where she was worried, her medical doctor was worried that my mom then had liver cancer. He told her that I'm scared that this is what's going on. Her cholesterol started going up too. And so, like, she's just devastated, right? I just got through this, just got past this, and now this is coming at me again. And so she went to her chiropractor at the time. Her chiropractor said, listen, Trudy, you've been through all this. This has been happening to you. You just went through drinking toxic iodine. It makes sense that if you don't give your body a way to actively detox, you don't do something to actively get this out of your system, it can cause toxicity, and that can be causing some of the problems that you're having. I don't know if this will help you or not, but at this point, what do you have to lose? Try this 21-day program, and we'll see if we can get this out of your system. So she's like, yeah, what do I have to lose at this point, right? So she decided to do this program that we're going to talk about tonight. Did it for 21 days. At the end of the 21 days, she decided to do her blood work again, just to check if I made any changes. In 21 days, her liver enzymes completely normalized. She's been cancer-free since. So, a little passionate when I talk about this, and one of the reasons that I do it is it's more than just, I want to lose a couple pounds for the holidays. Like, that's a nice side effect, right? That's pretty cool. But this has affected my family in a positive way. And so I, shortly thereafter, I graduated from chiropractic school, so probably 2 years after, I had known my mom's story, right? So I'm like, I'm a pretty healthy person, I'm going to lose a ton of weight. Is this really going to make a change with me? And so I'm like, I got a lot of patients who I knew this story, right? I got a lot of people who I think that this could help. And so I wanted to be able to do it, to say, I did it, you can do it. That was my whole goal of doing it the very first time. But I was floored with the results I saw with myself. After day 4 or day 5, I started having more energy, started sleeping better, started thinking clear. Even though I wasn't having problems, I didn't necessarily realize how bad things were until I felt how good I could feel. Sleeping better, thinking better, more focus, mental clarity. The first time lost like 10, 12 pounds, which was a nice side effect. But the real reason I do this is because I felt better than I did any other time during the year. And so I had done it. My mom had done it. My dad is one of those, like a typical guy, right? If your husbands aren't here tonight, he's probably dragging his feet. And that's my dad, right? And my dad, he, once again, does yearly blood work. Every single year does it. His cholesterol is always just on that high side. So he, between 205 and 215 every single year for 10 years straight. Finally, he saw the results with me. He saw the results with mom. He gave it. He's like, okay, you know what? I'm just going to do it. At the end of 21 days, he did his blood work, and for the first time in 10 years, his total cholesterol dropped down to 139. And he's been able to stay off medication and been able to avoid all of that. And so this is where I'm coming from. This is where tonight is what it's about. You know, it's kind of nice at the beginning of the year to kind of once again hit the reset button. Like I said, drop a few pounds. That's always nice. But the real goal is to just make people healthy and help you be healthy. Give you the tools that you need to be healthy. I was talking to someone earlier today, and she was telling me how her father was diagnosed with Parkinson's. And now she found out that she has this precursor that she is likely to probably have that same diagnosis because of this genetic predisposition. And we went into and I gave her this whole talk. I mean, we just gave her the last like 5 to 10 minutes of what we talked about, that while we have genetics and we have this genetic code that we share with our family, a whole new field of study called epigenetics is forming. It basically says that genes can be activated and deactivated based on your environment. So when I first heard this, the speaker, what he said is, you know, let's say today we found that every single fish in Lake Erie had cancer. Were we saying what is wrong with their genetic code or what's wrong with the water? Everyone would want to know what's wrong with the water that the fish are swimming in, right? And we have to start thinking of ourselves as animals. That's what we are. So what's happening in our environment? How can we change our environment? If we can find what's happening in our environment, if we can change our environment, we can change how our genes are expressed, and we can change our health outcomes like my mom did, cancer free. So I'm excited tonight to share this with you. We have Gene here. Gene does this every year for me. I appreciate him coming out, and he's a wealth of information. If you guys have nutrition questions, when I have nutrition questions, he's the guy I reach out to. Take in what he has tonight, and we'll be around for some questions at the end. But hope you guys enjoy.
All right, thanks.
Yep.
So, do you want me to show the testimonial?
Yeah, go ahead. Go for it.
So, the nice thing about this lecture and the results and all of that is, you know, Dr. Luke gave you his family story, which is an amazing one, but there's also one he sent me last year. This is the patient one. So I'm going to play that one, just so you can see from a patient perspective.
Hey everybody, this is Dr. Reinhardt from Proactive Health and Wellness. I'm here with Tony. Tony just made some big changes. He had his total cholesterol drop 99 points in the past 21 days. I just wanted to kind of bring in here and share with you guys what he did.
Yeah, so I joined the 21-day purification program. I did the complete switch, which went all veggie and fruit for the first 10 days, and then finished off. I did a little bit of meats and stuff in a second pass of it. But the goal for me was to lose weight, to lower my cholesterol, because the doctor warned me I was going to have to go on medication if I did. And it worked great. I mean, I got on the green side for my doctor's metrics. I got on for my worst metrics. Losing 17 pounds in the way they structured the program, it actually helped me a lot. So even after the program, I'm eating a little differently now. It gives me some visibility into how the right ways to eat, and so a lot of information around what good organic is, right? Good grass-fed, cage-free, and all that stuff. So it helped me out.
Yeah, that's great. Really just focus on the basics of nutrition and what works. I think it's kind of funny. When you were, before you started this program, your doctor gave you some suggestions to try and just lower your cholesterol. What did your doctor tell you to do?
Yeah, so mostly at the deepest scenario was go vegan. That was the biggest thing. Get away from all your meats, anything that had high cholesterol, avoid it completely. This diet did that at the beginning, but it phased some meats in, some of those proteins back in that I liked about it. And I didn't have to go full vegan to do this and stay vegan to keep this going. Right. But at the beginning, she even told me, you know, you go down 10, 20 points of cholesterol, and that's a success. Going down 99 points is unbelievable.
In 21 days, yeah. So believe it or not, that's kind of a misconception. You have to cut out all cholesterol to get your cholesterol to drop. That really is what science is showing. Once we get inflammation reduced, then you can see the big drop. So thanks, Tony. Appreciate your time. Appreciate your story. If anyone else has questions about just lowering their cholesterol, dropping a few pounds, or really just interested in the purification detoxification program, you see this with a lot of our patients. On average, we see about a 70-point drop in 21 days if someone has high cholesterol. So if you have any questions, shoot us an email, give us a call, and hopefully we can give you some information about what Tony did and give you a similar success path and give you a plan for you guys to help drop your cholesterol, drop your numbers. So thanks again for your time. Really appreciate it. Thanks, guys. Have a good day.
So the crazy thing about that testimonial is, you know, it's not uncommon. Yeah, yes, it's definitely all true. And there's no shortage of them. And we'll talk a little bit about genetics tonight, but the reason we can so successfully drop weight, drop cholesterol, normalize blood sugar is because what Dr. Reinhardt was talking about is it's not really genetics. I'll touch on that so you can understand it better, but if they have us thinking it's genetics, they have us thinking our health really isn't that much in our control. But it's very much in our control, and that's why we see those big drops. So we'll get to those underlying things, like cholesterol, talk about weight, but really the link of toxicity. So why is this program so successful as far as it being sustainable? And why the results so good is, like what that patient alluded to was, you know, it was nothing radical. He was just changing his eating. It was something he could continue. So which brings us to the 21-day purification program. What does it take 21 days to develop? Habit, exactly. So we don't want you to just do something for a certain amount of time and then fall off the wagon. The real goal of this program, aside from the results, is what you've learned from it. And once you learn something, you keep that and you can continue it. Whether it's shopping differently, cooking differently, just trying different foods so that you're not dependent on whatever fast food is in the area. If you even go to a restaurant, you can make smarter choices. So that's the idea of the 21 days. Now, I'm not going to go into this testimony in a lot of detail because we've had so many already, but this patient did hit on 3 of them. So the first one, you see the top there with weight loss. Weight loss and cholesterol is what's made this program popular, but that is just a side effect of what happens when toxicity is gone and the diet's cleaned up. So I'll talk about that a little bit more. But medication is another thing. So we're probably the most medicated country in the world. Our health issues are not that great with that high amount of medication, but for the most part, a lot of things we're on drugs for, you can solve with food. This patient here is on a blood pressure med, did the 21-day program, was able to come off the medication. Now this patient actually does the program once a year, but in that 12 months in between cleanses, the blood pressure never went up because they were able to get to the foundational cause of what the blood pressure issue was. You know, it could be a food allergy, it could be congested liver, it could be mineral imbalance, it could be stress. There's a whole slew of reasons why we have certain health issues. Whatever this patient was, he didn't worry about it. He just cleaned up the foundation, got that strong, and it went away. Then, of course, healthy eating. He did say here, my biggest concern when I first started this program was would I be hungry? But if I followed the program guidelines, this never occurred. Still drink protein shake at least once a day, snack on a lot more fruits and vegetables, drinking whole bars, chips, etc. That's important because a lot of us think just because something is gluten-free, or even just because it's organic, we think it's healthy. But that's so far from the truth. We have to really get back to what real eating is and what real food is, and that's what this program allows us to do. It's a re-education. So what we'll talk about briefly tonight, what are toxins? Some of us have ideas of what toxins are, but for the most part, they're hidden in a lot of places, and you'd be surprised where those toxins are, how they enter our bodies, which is the next point. What are the effects of toxicity? So we'll talk about some different health issues, some popular ones, a whole bunch of them really. And how can we toxify and manage our weight properly? Again, the most popular side effect of the program. So we live in a toxic environment. These are typically what we think of as the toxins. I'll just give you some statistics here, but it says, in 1989, the EPA estimated in 1 year almost 6 billion pounds of chemicals were either dumped into public sewage or released into ground surface waters or air. So that was years ago at this point. Here's the problem. Many of the chemicals that we have used and that we found were detrimental, and we made them illegal, they're still in the environment. They didn't just go away. There's no antagonist for them. Example I like to use is DDT. You all familiar with it, at least heard of it? So who knows why we made it illegal? It's like a pesticide, herbicide that they use in farming. Any guesses why it's illegal? Yeah, but that's one answer. But essentially, we discovered it was destroying the wildlife around the Great Lakes. And like Dr. Luke was talking about, okay, all these animals are having issues. The bald eagles are going extinct. Is there something wrong with the animals, or is there something in the environment? And we found not only was it ruining the animals in the environment, well, we're animals too, it was disrupting our endocrine system. So with all that, we made it illegal. But here's the problem. As I said, there's no antagonist for it in nature. It's still in our tissue. We're still exposed to it. It's found in newborn babies. So our bodies need to effectively manage these things in the environment. And we do that through purification and detoxification. This is a fairly new one, pharmaceuticals in our water. There's a vast array of pharmaceuticals, including antibiotics, anticonvulsants, anti-inflammatory, mood stabilizers, and sex hormones, have been found in drinking water supplies in 24 of the 28 U.S. metropolitan areas tested. So as of today, that's actually a statistic for 2008. As of today, it's every single area that tests water, they find the pharmaceuticals in the water. And that goes along with the fact that since we're the largest medicated country, after we metabolize the drugs, it still leaves every time we use the restroom. We flush it down the toilet. And our water treatment plant is not meant to handle that. The other problem is there's a right way and a wrong way to get rid of extra meds. If someone passes, they don't need them anymore, or if you have one that you don't need, what do they tell you to do with the medication? Yeah, so that's the wrong way, but you'll still hear that, and you'll still get that. So people are still outright flushing meds down the toilet. It ends up in our drinking water. So this slide is not the fun slide that everyone wants to see, but yeah, exactly. It's the yummy foods, I guess. But I want you to get a few general ideas and points from this lecture. And one of those is food as a business. So I don't want you to forget that. I want that to stick with you, because food companies, they just want things to taste good, they want it to look pretty, and they want it to last longer on the shelf. But the process to foods to make it do those things, it doesn't work so well with our bodies. Because what they do is they take out the fats, they take out the vitamins and the minerals, and they replace them with copies and synthetics. And that doesn't jive so well, so to speak, for our bodies. So with all those things, they're refined, they're bleached, they're colored, they're not real foods. So, but the point I want to make is, I'm not going to say never eat these things. Part of this program is you clean up your diet, and you never have anything tasty again. It's more about reducing the cravings for these things. And if you do eat them, make sure the junk in them leaves your body. So what we're talking about is more so a game of excretion than we are avoidance. Okay, the holidays came, we all had pie, we ate those foods. When the weather gets warm, we're gonna have hot dogs, we're gonna have hamburgers, we're gonna drink beer, we're gonna have wine. But again, it's about getting rid of those cravings for them, and then once we do have them, the junk leaves our body. So the U.S. allows over 14,000 chemical additives to our food supply, and the average American consumes more than 150 pounds of food additives and 158 pounds of sugar annually. So I'll show some videos tonight, and one of those videos will show how carbohydrates and different foods actually break down to sugar in our body. So if we think we're having a sugar-free diet, it actually will end up being all sugar. Some of those things, trans fats, high fructose corn syrup, MSG, our food is loaded with these things. Okay, so what do the chemicals in the environment, like DDT, That's something, it's one of something we call the dirty dozen. Anyone heard of the dirty dozen? Okay, they're the 12 popular chemicals that are just so horrible for our health and still exist in the environment. They're called POPs, which stands for persistent organic pollutant. They persist in the environment, they don't go away. But they actually inhibit weight loss. That is why this program is the safest and most effective way to lose weight. Because the body's natural defense to toxins, if we're not effectively getting them out of our system, is to put them in fat tissue as a safe coating, if you will, so that they don't go to vital organs. It's the most effective way to make sure they don't destroy us. It's actually kind of similar to a pebble in an oyster. What happens to a pebble in an oyster? You guys know what happens to a pebble in an oyster? It's pearl. So what that oyster does, keeps putting its mucus around that pearl, or I'm sorry, around the stone. It smooths it out so it's no longer an irritant. Our body will get all those toxins in the environment, wrap them with fat, and tuck it away so it's not an irritant anymore. People think to lose weight, we just have to exercise more, we have to cut out calories. It's not so much that, it's getting rid of the toxins. Because your body's gonna say, there's no way I'm getting rid of these toxins. It's the safest place getting rid of the fat, it's the safest place for me to keep these toxins. So they say when toxins leave, fat follows, okay? Somehow though, individuals, if they try hard enough, you can lose the weight, you can force it off. But that's when hair doesn't look so good, lines under the eyes, you don't feel so hot. That's because you may have lost the weight, but where the toxins go, they just kept circulating around. So that's the link with toxins and weight especially, but a lot of chronic diseases in general. So this is the video I mentioned, and I always have to give this disclaimer because it's an amazing video. I can't find a better one, but it has the corniest music. So ignore that, get the content from it, and then what I will do is I will explain what cholesterol has to do with sugar and what weight has to do with sugar.
What I'm going to show you is that your body turns carbohydrate food into sugar. Let's start with a typical breakfast of cereal, toast, orange juice, and a banana. Cereal has about 1/4 cup of sugar. Toast has about 1/4 cup of sugar. Orange juice has about 1/4 cup of sugar. Banana has about 1/8 cup of sugar, and that's just breakfast. Let's say around 10 a.m. you get hungry, so you have a snack. Let's say you have a fruit on the bottom yogurt. This fruit on the bottom, low-fat yogurt, has a whopping 1/4 cup of sugar. And for lunch, let's say you're watching your weight, so you have a skinned chicken breast, baked potato, and some bread. There is no sugar in the chicken, but the potato has a heaping 1/4 cup of sugar in it. And the bread also has a 1/4 cup of sugar in it. So now 3 o'clock rolls around and you're feeling a bit tired, so you have a few pieces of candy and a soda pop. The candy is about 1/4 cup of, you got it right, sugar. And the soda is about 1/4 cup of sugar as well. Now for dinner, you're a good low-fat dieter and you're really trying to do the right thing, so all you need is pasta. Pasta, bread, and a soda. And the pasta, again, is about 1/4 cup of sugar. The bread, another 1/4 cup. And the soda, about 1/4 cup of sugar. Now, are you getting the picture? Look at all this sugar in the food you're eating. Incredible, isn't it? Keep in mind now that these spikes of sugar demand a spike in insulin to push all the sugar out of your bloodstream. Now, that's just one day's work. Multiply that by 365 days, and then by how old you are, and you should be getting a picture of why most of us have had such a hard time losing weight, and why many of us suffer from such a variety of health ailments.
So we can see that foods that we typically think of as being healthy, really what they are is sugar. And the reason that is it was decades ago, they really villainized fats. Fats are bad, cholesterol is bad. So people went to a high carbohydrate diet. And when you take fat out of food, I mean, fat tastes good. How do you make the foods taste good?
Sugar.
Yeah, you add sugar, a lot of other things. It was really bad science. Actually, I always lectured on this, but I never knew where it actually started. Where this whole bad fat thing came from, actually Eisenhower had a heart attack in like 56. And the Surgeon General flipped out. He was like, okay, the last person who's been having a heart attack is the president of the US. And that's where this whole thing started. But you'll notice, if you ever look at statistics, chronic disease, heart disease, cancers, they're all going up. But fat kept getting lower and lower. Doctors want cholesterol lower and lower. And now we know, and there's a lot of emerging research on this, carbohydrates are inflammatory. High carbs equals high triglycerides, higher cholesterol, all those things. So we never linked sugar with cholesterol. We thought it was genetic. But think of what sugar does to your teeth. What does sugar do to your teeth? Yeah, it rots them, essentially. Sugar just doesn't come in contact with your teeth. It comes in contact with all tissue, even soft tissue, like your vascular system. And it's essentially like sandpaper. So over and over again, eating that sugar wears away at your vascular system, and then cholesterol comes along. And cholesterol is actually very good. It's the good guy. It's there to patch up the damage. So what happens is they'll just measure cholesterol, pay no attention to the inflammation that's causing it, and they'll put you on a statin. Cholesterol is only the smoke to the fire. Okay, the fire is the inflammation. You got to put out the inflammation, cholesterol goes away. And that's what Dr. Reinhardt was talking about, that video of the patient. Once that inflammation went away, that's when the cholesterol really goes down. So we need to rethink what's causing a lot of these health issues. Then, of course, with weight, I think it's well known now, sugar and its correlation with weight gain. But all these things that happen, the body's actually really smart. The body's not stupid. So when we have high cholesterol, excess weight, high blood pressure, it's called compensatory physiology. The body's compensating for something. So with the cholesterol, the body's compensating for the inflammation. With weight, our body's smart. We eat the sugar, and it says, I don't want to waste all this energy because sugar is valuable energy. It says, I'll store it for later, and I'll store it as potential energy. What is potential energy known as? It's fat. So all these things our body does is actually smart. So we need to cut down the carbs, the calories, because we don't hunt for our food anymore. We're not chasing food in the bush. We have sedentary lifestyles. We have desk jobs. So life's very different now. So how do the toxins enter our bodies? Lungs, something we breathe in, exhaust, toxic fumes, secondhand smoke. Digestive tract, things we eat. And skin penetration, perfume, lotion, hairspray. Skin's the largest organ, okay, that's sort of well known now. Anything we put on it gets absorbed right into our body. On the flip side of that, sometimes if we get rashes, things like that, it's the body trying to detox. Can't do it the right way, wants to get it out, does it through the skin. But keep in mind, everything we put on our body gets absorbed. Who knows what gland is right here? The thyroid gland. Where do men spray cologne, women spray perfume? Right here. Now, you know, it's even worse is with like Axe body spray. They're getting their whole body. The teens are getting their genitals. It's a big mess. But there's receptors here. So anything we put on there is going to disrupt our thyroid. And the theme of this lecture isn't what we do once or twice that's going to kill us. Because you don't wake up with heart disease. You don't wake up with type 2 diabetes. It's what do we do little by little over a long period of time. So the idea of this program is to put us in a new direction. Stop getting the contaminants in the food, the junk in the environment, get it out, start yourself on a new path. So what effects does all this toxicity and poor diet have on us? We talked about the weight gain, and what goes right along with that is edema, which is water weight. So again, your body wants to hide those toxins in a safe place. One of those is water weight. So there's a saying that I like, it's the solution to pollution is dilution. Your body wants to dilute it any way it can. So one of the first things patients recognize on the program, sometimes rings fit differently because all that water weight is able to come off. Fatigue, headaches, allergies, joint muscle pain. I show a video. The next one we'll look at talks about those in more detail, explains it better. Hormonal function, anxiety and stress, skin rashes, sleep problems, cholesterol problems. Across the board, so many health issues are caused from toxicity. If they're not caused from toxicity, toxicity makes them worse. Dr. Luke was talking about before, even healthy individuals that say, okay, what can I get from this? Across the board, fatigue, excess energy, better sleep, those are things anyone will get from the program. That's what I notice when I do it. Okay, so aside from food being a business, the next thing I want you to grasp, Dr. Reinhardt did a perfect segue for all these slides. I'm going to talk about the genetics here. Because everybody thinks, well, if my grandparents had it, my parents had it, I'll get it. It's further from the truth than you can imagine. So I want to show you some data from the Center for Disease Control. And the year is 1988. And in the red states, more than 35% of that population is considered to be overweight. So what we'll do is we'll jump ahead just about 8 years, and we see it's half the US. And we cut the time in half, that we jump forward to 2000. It's every single state. Okay, so we ask ourselves, do genes change that fast? Absolutely not. It takes about 40,000 years for changes to occur in the human genome. And you'll still hear things on the radio, you hear weight loss things, especially around the new year, and I heard it called the pesky obesity gene that they try and talk about. But it might be more difficult for others and some to put weight off, take it off, or put it on, but it all comes down to how the genes turned off or on with food. And it's 90 days time. So some of us may be more susceptible to cancer, or maybe more susceptible to weight, but the bottom line is it's whether or not we turn those genes off or on. And we do that with food. Over 90% of cancers are environmental, meaning they have absolutely no genetic link. It's the foods we're putting in our body, and it's the environment we're in. So there's a quote I like from, his name is Dr. James Chestnut. He's a chiropractor and nutritionist. He says there's no such thing as bad genes, bad germs, or bad luck. Basically, health is a choice, it's not chance. So keep that in mind, and you'll realize health is within your control. Get that point across one more time, I'll show you this info. This is on type 2 diabetes. So from 1980 to today, the number of Americans with diabetes is more than tripled, from 5.8 million to 18.8 million. Again, that's not genetics, that's food. Food is what's changed so much, even with that first change in the US from 88 to 96. That's when we had the food pyramid introduced, which is completely backwards. High fructose corn syrup, all of those things. So on the topic of this, why did it used to be called adult onset diabetes, but they had to rename it type 2 diabetes?
Based in genetics like type 1 supposedly is?
Well,
If you're not born with it.
you could say that, but more so it's because children are getting it. So it's called adult onset because adults were getting it. And 11-year-olds are getting it, 10-year-olds, and they realize, okay, maybe we shouldn't have a Coke machine, in the lunchroom. So kids are, going crazy on Coke and Pepsi. They're trying to clean up the diet, but they're really not doing a good job. But that's the reason, because it's affecting everyone now. So this is the last video we'll show. It's on leaky gut. Everyone familiar with leaky gut? Heard of it? Okay. So it's kind of a weird name for it. It's technically like intestinal hyperpermeability, but understanding it's very key in understanding why foods ultimately and toxins guide our health, determine our health. And I'll sum it up when we're done here.
Focuses on sealing up or repairing a damaged gut, what we call leaky gut. Let's take a look. Here is a good example of a good, strong, healthy gut with very, very tight colon cells. We call those colonocytes. The average distance there is about 1 to 3 microns. To put that in perspective, a red blood cell is about 7 to 8 microns in width. Now take a look at what we call leaky gut. These colon cells go from 1 to 3 microns in distance to 2 to 300 microns. So you can imagine the debris that leaks through, causing all sorts of immune reactions. There are many well-known conditions that are scientifically documented to be connected to this very condition called leaky gut. Autoimmune diseases like rheumatoid arthritis, a lot of your food allergies, in fact, over 80–90% of your food allergies are simply leaky gut. And of course, it's a major source of toxicity. What things lead to this leaky gut? Drinking too much coffee, too much alcohol, too much sugar, not enough fruits and vegetables, especially organically grown. Chronic use of NSAIDs, non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs like ibuprofen, Advil, have been shown in scientific literature to be connected and causing a leaky gut.
So we can see that our colonocytes, basically our intestinal lining and all of that, should be so tight that not even a blood cell can get through. That's how tight that is. But what happens is, I guess let me back up. So all of that tissue, our GI tract, is the same as our skin. It's all epithelial tissue. So just as this skin will get cuts, torn up, it'll get chapped, same thing happens on the inside from the foods we eat. And what happens is anything can go through it that's not supposed to, especially the foods we eat. So many people confuse food sensitivities with food allergies. Now, food allergies exist, but if we have leaky gut and we don't have a true food allergy, but we can eat a steak, we can eat dairy, and that protein will go through that intestinal lining. And our immune system will treat that protein just like any foreign invader. So when we get the flu, we get a viral, we get bacterial, you mount an immune response. Fever, aching joints, you're tired. The same thing happens when you eat food proteins. The body says, wait a minute, your protein is not supposed to be here, let's get an immune response going. And in many cases, patients will notice once they get one food allergy, they get another one, and it's like a cascade. And then the worst case scenario with leaky gut, this is oversimplified, but autoimmune can occur, like mentioned in the video. So we have cell turnover all day long. As dead cells die, they're supposed to leave a certain way. But with that leaky gut, it leaks through, and our immune system picks up our own DNA. And that's worst case scenario, and that's one of the ways autoimmunity can occur. But the research and statistics on autoimmunity is ridiculous now. It used to just be a handful. Now there's one for basically every single tissue in the body. So there's 3 main ways that the body deals with toxins. One is buried in the body bags. We talked about that. That's the safest option for the body. Second thing is deposit them in tissues, but that's what we don't want, like nerve tissue, liver tissue. Third option the body has is remove them, and that's what this program is supposed to do. Now, why isn't it happening anyway? The reason it's not happening now is we're exposed to a load of toxins we've never been exposed to before. And we're not eating the foods we used to eat and the foods our body needs to help excrete them. There are certain foods we need to make sure these things leave our body. So I'll talk a little bit about the program now, how it's different. But basically, with toxins being all over the body, we need to get all those organs and glands involved. You may have heard of a colon cleanse or gallbladder flush. That only takes care of part of the problem. We need to get the whole body involved. Skin, kidneys, colon, but especially the liver. So why is that? The liver is essentially the filter for our body. Its job is to neutralize toxins and get them out of the body. Things like drugs, pesticides, food additives, hormones. And it does it in 2 phases. There's multiple phases, but these are the 2 main ones. And phase 1, this is like getting a garbage package for pickup. This is when all the toxins are gathered out of tissues and they're ready to leave the body. Phase 2 is when they actually leave the body. Consider this a garbage pickup. If it's not picked up, toxins collect in the body. So you need both phase 1 and phase 2 working. If you were to go to the Whole Foods or grocery store, for example, and you get a store-bought kit, a lot of them will just ramp up phase 1. And that's bad news. You might feel good initially, but then patients don't feel so hot, and that's because it's not completing the process. You have to do all the phases, which this program does. So I'm going to give you an analogy here with the importance of it. So like it's the filter, it's like the oil and the oil filter for your car. How often do you have to change the oil and the oil filter in your car? So it's a trick question, because no one would have the right answer. But the reason it's a trick question is technically you don't have to change your oil. You don't have to change your filter. You can run it until your oil looks like molasses and it blows up. Same is true for our bodies or in our liver. You know, we don't have to do anything to it, but if we want to maintain it, if we want it to last longer, like with your cars, we do regular maintenance. And that regular maintenance is eating certain foods and making sure the filter is working. And that's what this program does. It gets the liver making phase 1 and phase 2 happen. By the way, anytime you see research, if you've heard fruits and vegetables decrease your risk of cancer, or you hear anything reducing your risk of cancer, if you actually read the study, probably 95% of the time, that study is on how that food gets phase 1 and phase 2 working in the body. It all comes down to how well your liver is processing junk. So, program provides guidelines for healthy eating and whole food supplements. So everything I go into from here on out is going to be in the booklet that comes with the program, even some of the stuff before it. So don't think you have to write down what supplements on what day. The booklet includes all of that. It's very user-friendly. I will say, if you decide to do the program and you want to do it, don't start tomorrow at 8 a.m. Read through the booklet, get to know it a little bit, because it's just better that way. Prep is everything.
You know, junk in your mouth.
Yeah. I have a 24-hour binge. So it provides multiple nutrients in highly bioavailable form. This is where the use of standard process is really key, because it's not what you eat, it's what you absorb. You may have heard that before, but a lot of things, just over-the-counter supplements, different things in the stores, like I mentioned with the foods, they're chemical copies. Your body doesn't always know what to do with it. So if your body doesn't recognize it, you can't utilize it. If supplements are from food, they're made from food, which our body recognizes, we can actually utilize it better. Absorbability is much higher. If you've ever done like a Megamens, a Centrum, a 1 a day, anything from the grocery store, you'll notice your urine is the most bright neon color imaginable. Those are B vitamins and different vitamins your body just didn't absorb. You're literally peeing your money away when you do that. So it's all about absorbability. It contains organically grown whole food concentrates, providing nutrients to help detoxify the liver and support the immune system. The other key with using food is purification. Detox is a little stressful on the system. It's like a home renovation. You're ripping out all the old junk, but then you have to rebuild. When you detoxify with whole foods, it has the chemicals to get the toxins out, but it also has the phytonutrients and the chemicals to help rebuild your system as it's tearing it down. So we'll talk a little about the product now. So what you're getting now is actually a sample shake of SP Complete. And SP Complete is a product up here that this was made with. And you do 2 to 3 of these shakes a day. And it's not this size. You actually get a whole, it ends up being probably like this, a whole 16 ounces of shakes. So we're not being cruel where you just get a few of those sips. But what that has in it are things like buckwheat, Brussels sprouts, kale, carrot, alfalfa, choline, barley grass, inositol. Does anyone have any of those foods today? 2 of you? Okay. The rest of you in like a week? Some? Okay. So these are things we used to get constantly every day. And these are the foods that get phase 1 and phase 2 going. This is also a great source of protein. You can see the whey in there. And what this shake has is called the second meal effect. It's rich in vitamins and minerals and protein that holds you over to the second meal. It keeps blood sugar levels consistent and creates a feeling of fullness. But you have to make a shake that you like. So I think what Dr. Reinhardt did was basically just frozen fruit mix and then the powder. You can play around with it any way you want. This book here that they carry, this has probably close to 20 pages of just recipes. You can make it any way you want. I prefer the frozen fruit so you can make it a smoothie. Do you know what kind of fruit you use?
We are using blueberries, raspberries, blackberries. Frozen.
So I'll give you a tip. If you're not used to doing smoothies, you can do a half of a banana. If you do half of a banana, it changes the whole shake, I promise. So if this is borderline for you, do the half of a banana. The only time I advocate doing the bananas in the shake, because it's healthy, but what is it? Sugar. Yeah, just straight sugar. But this is the SP Complete, so you get 2 tubs of this with the program. You're doing SP Cleanse the first 7 days. And SP Cleanse really kickstarts the detox process. It has ingredients geared towards certain organ systems. Blood purifier, helps with kidney, it has chlorophyll to heal up leaky gut. So across the board, this is really what gets the program going. When you're done with the cleanse, when the bottle's used up, that's when you switch to green food. Again, it's foods we aren't eating as much as we should, but things that are so important for the liver, like buckwheat, barley grass, Brussels sprouts, kale, alfalfa. So if you're not familiar with standard process, we have our own farms in Palmyra, Wisconsin. We grow the foods that become supplements. And you'll see a lot of weird things like juice powder. What is juice powder? What we do is we grow the vegetables and then we press them. We never heat anything up. We don't kill the enzymes. We don't kill the nutrients. Just press out so it's just juice. And then we dehydrate the juice. So a powder of the juice is left over. And it's just a concentration so many times higher than if we were to just eat foods in a meal. And then you're doing a fiber. And what fiber does is cleanses the GI tract, encourages healthy intestinal environment. You hear a lot about probiotics, you don't hear a lot about prebiotics. Prebiotics are more important than probiotics because long-term, that's what feeds our own native flora. So probiotics are good, but long-term, soluble fiber is one of the best prebiotics.
So this is prebiotic?
Yes, this is the prebiotic, the fiber program. 80% of your immune system is in your gut, and you need soluble fiber to make that happen. Help that. Enhances the cleansing activity of the liver as well. These are adjunct supplements. These don't come with the program, but depending on lifestyle, if you're an active person, you may want more protein. So the first, as you heard in that testimonial, the video, you don't do meat the first 10 days because it's tough to digest. You want to give your digestive system a break. The protein you are getting is from the shakes. You can get it from this protein if you want to add this, but you can also get it from lentils and quinoa. Those things are allowed. So the shakes and different protein sources through food are how you're getting your protein. Quinoa. You should be using a lot of fats on the program. You can do butter, you should be doing olive oil, coconut oil, through dressings, whatever. But make sure you're getting a lot of fats. This is a high-fat program. If for whatever reason you don't think you're getting enough fats, talk to Dr. Reinhardt. He'll recommend the standard process has plenty of good omega fats. And then the last thing I'll mention that's not included is Junima. Junima is key for stopping sugar cravings. With the program, a lot of the times it's not what you're eating, it's what you're not eating. And if we're just used to any sort of carb, whether it's sweets or bagels or muffins, we saw how carbohydrates become sugar in the body. That's one of the harder things to kick. This is the ultimate for eliminating sugar cravings. It's not made for sugar cravings, it's made for balancing blood sugar and cortisol. When those things are balanced, you don't have cravings. So if anyone here has blood sugar issues, it's a great thing to do after the program to stay balanced.
If I remember correctly, from what I've learned through research, I remember hearing that sugar is as addictive, if not more, than cocaine.
Oh yeah, that's definitely true. Sugar, they say it actually activates the same parts of the brain more intensely than cocaine does. If rats had the option between, it was like water, cocaine, and sugar water, they took the sugar water every time over cocaine and water. That's just insane.
So would you say that applies to carbohydrates then as well? Like
Yeah, absolutely, I would say. So this is a supplement schedule. Since it's from food, the concentration is different than would be a chemical like the one a day I mentioned, or even pharmaceuticals, because we're taking handfuls of vegetables and condensing it down. So with SP Cleanse, it's 7 capsules 3 times a day. You know, for me, it's not a big deal. For Dr. Luke, the staff's not a big deal. But if you're not used to taking any supplements at all, you can just pull it apart and dump it in the shake. That's what some people do. There's a slight hint of cayenne in the SP Cleanse, but it's not a big deal. You do the shakes, the SP Complete, then you do the fiber. Okay? When we're done with the cleanse on day 8, that's when you start the green food, like I mentioned, and still doing the shakes, still doing the fiber.
You're only consuming shakes?
No, so this is the diet portion. This is the other way that this program is different. It's not a starvation diet like that one patient was wondering. You actually eat as much as you want. It just has to be the right foods and the right ratios. And it's pretty simple. Twice as many vegetables as fruit. Unlimited amounts. You're going to be eating breakfast, lunch, and dinner, but don't just think of it that way. You're literally grazing and snacking throughout the day. And that's possible even if you have a busy job. It all just comes down to prep. And I'll talk about that a little bit.
Is this how you brochure?
Yeah, so all this is in the booklet. The booklet talks about what foods you can eat. It talks about the ratios. Literally has a shopping list in the back. And what I recommend doing is start with the foods you know how to make and know you like. I said before, don't start at 8 a.m. with a food you've never had before. Or the first day you're starving, you're trying to cook a dinner with who knows what. Plenty of options. Start where you know you're familiar with those foods. But twice as many vegetables as fruits, eat as much as you like. What that does is avoid being hungry, keeps your energy levels consistent, and you're drinking the shakes. Usually a shake is a breakfast. It's pretty filling. I'm not sure, were those 2 shakes you made, or was that 1 shake shared?
It was 2.
About 2.
Yeah.
So you could see 2 shakes was that many cupfuls, around the room. They're filled. Like I said, you'll top off a 16-ounce pint glass with a shake in the morning. I guess I'll just talk about this now, prep. When I do the purification program, I make my shakes all at once. I make 3 at once in my blender. I drink 1 there in the morning, and then I put 2 in a thermos. And it's nothing fancy. It's a thermos brand. I got it at Target. It keeps the shake good the whole day. I did the shake in July one time. I don't recommend doing that. But even with the thermos sitting in the car in the hot sun all day, kept it frosty. If you want to make a warm variety of shakes, keeps it warm too. So then on days 11 through 21, what we're doing is we're introducing meat, quality meat. It's so readily available everywhere now. Anyone living in the Columbus area, there's no excuse. You can even get it at decent price now. But you don't want to be putting back in your body what we're getting out. The hormones, the pesticides, the antibiotics. And the meat is 3 to 4 ounces. Basically the size of a deck of cards, size of your palm. You're eating that with your meals. Fish should be deep sea fish, salmon, cod, or sea bass. Don't want farm raised. As far as vegetables go, you want to do either fresh or frozen. We don't want to do canned. Okay? I recommend fresh is okay, fresh is fine, but what I find with my schedule, I can stock up on frozen. You can get frozen vegetables, huge bags, keep it in your freezer chest if you want, just makes life easier. And it's just as nutritious as the fresh. Continue to eat fruits and vegetables with the meats, unlimited amounts, just twice as many vegetables as fruit, and then drinking your shakes. So this book gives you tons of ideas on meals. What I like to do in the colder weather is I make a crock pot meal that's cleanse friendly and it lasts you a ton of meals. So it all just comes down to prep, doing the grocery shopping before you want to start the program. Look at the meals, look at the recipes in here. There's an app you can use. It's a purification app where you keep track of your supplements and taking them. There's a Pinterest page. That's not official through Standard Process, but on Pinterest you can find recipes and all that stuff. Know your resources, work with the office because they live the lifestyle, all that business.
I have a question.
Sure.
I eat a predominantly vegetarian diet. I do have fish on occasion. So how, I mean, this might be more of an individualized question, but how would I navigate that throughout this program?
Sure. You don't have to do meat on this program. There actually used to be 2 versions, and we combined them so that the first week is vegetarian, the first 10 days, and the rest is not. You can continue the whole time as you want. I wouldn't do the fish. I mean, fish is fairly easy to digest, but I would still do the no meat first 10 days. And then if you want to do meat, do the fish. I don't know if you're vegan. Well, I guess you do fish every once in a while, you're not. But there's whey. That's the source of protein in the SP Complete shakes. The whey is just, it's amazing form of protein. Question?
Thanks.
So, your perfect timing on the slide here. But these are foods and things you can have. I guess I'll just go down that last one point. That's nuts and beans. Many foods are healthy foods, eggs being one of them. They're a superfood. Nuts are great, but there are certain foods we're not having on the program. We eliminate the 5 major allergens. And that's certain nuts, it's dairy, it's soy, it's eggs, and it's wheat. Amazing things happen when you cut these things out. Like I said, not a lot of us have true food allergies, but we have food sensitivities, things like that. Especially if anyone has aching joints or soreness, you cut out those offenders, the pain, it's amazing how much better chiropractic is and everything is when you clean up your diet. But they're also, the nuts and the beans are high in carbs. So again, they're healthy foods, but during the 21-day, we're not doing them. Fast food, processed food, hopefully that's a given. Carbohydrates, sweets, and grains. You can do pseudo grains, like the quinoa I mentioned. That's a great grain. Other things that can accompany the meal are sweet potatoes. You can do a half a sweet potato a day. That's nice and filling and warm, especially when it's cold. Hydrogenated oils. There's a whole other lecture, but don't eat it. It's not food. Don't eat it. It's inflammatory. It's junk. But like I mentioned before, you can do butter. The reason you can do butter is it's just the fat part of the dairy. Alcohol, caffeine, soda, and tobacco. Is anyone here a coffee drinker? Okay. So a few notes on that. What I recommend is weaning yourself off. So even if you're, I don't drink coffee, so I don't know what crazy coffee is. I don't know, 8 cups a day, 4 cups, I don't know. But whatever you do, start to wean yourself off. If you do 4 cups a day, go down to 3, then to 2. You can go cold turkey. I'd say most patients probably do that, but you'll get a slight caffeine headache. Doesn't last long. I do drink tea with caffeine, so every once in a while, sometimes that will happen. But usually on day 3, it's clear, it's gone. If it's just a wicked headache, one thing you can do is you just sip on the coffee until the headache goes away. The first time you do the program, it's going to be a little bit difficult. You know, it's not a walk through the park, but this program is not a shortcut by any means. The reason you get the results is it's the real deal. We're cleaning up our diet. We're not making silly exceptions. You know, you may fall off the horse, but just get back on and keep going. You know, some people make mistakes the first time through. It's not a big deal. But on the other end of that coffee, yeah, so no eggs, no dairy, major allergens. So in the book, though, it has all the things you're allowed to have and things to avoid. So also with the coffee, the reason many people need it, whether it's, I don't know, you don't get good sleep, you need energy, the need for it typically goes away. If you're sleeping better, your energy is consistent, you're alert, you don't have brain fog. If it's like a ritual where you just get a hot beverage in the morning, that's where green tea will come in, things like that.
And also for the ginger tea?
Yeah, herbal teas are fantastic. You can do those on the program. Another question I typically get is, what about decaf coffee? The process to get a decaf is not good. It's chemically processed, so you don't want to do decaf. Really, there's no exception for the no caffeine thing. Caffeine will actually inhibit phase 1, phase 2 in the liver, so it does hinder the program. So when in doubt, avoid anything not specifically listed in the book. So what to expect from purification? Across the board, I mentioned before, more energy. That's what everyone experiences. Weight loss, So you lose what you have to lose. Some weight loss is a goal, others it's not. So some may lose only 2 pounds because that's all their frame will allow. Some lose a pound a day every day they're on the program, and even more after. It's a continual process. Just get your body to its natural state. So if I were to put the average, it'd be 8 to 12. Better digestion, reduced joint and muscle pain, skin and hair. That's just how well is your body processing foods, breaking down fats, how good your digestion, all of that. It's just a mirror image of what's happening on the inside. And improved mood, that comes with similar things, some more energy. Balanced blood sugar, balanced hormones, better sleep, all of those things. Now, cholesterol, we've talked about this, we've hit on it many times, but if cholesterol is high, remember cholesterol is good. If it's high, it just means that person's too inflamed. Or just from cleaning up the diet and doing these supplements for 21 days, for this particular patient, went from 344 to 182. Triglycerides went from 787 to 108. And heart risk went from 7.2 to 3.7. Now, heart risk is just, they use the different ratio of the different types of cholesterol and blood fats to get that. But, I mean, this outperforms medications in many cases. Now, don't just come off and stop your medication. Dr. Reiner will tell you where to get a pre and post lipid panel. I do recommend that if you're on a statin. If you're on blood sugar meds, monitor your blood sugar, because these things will normalize. When you clean up your diet, you get the toxins out, your body's going to want to go to its natural state. If this patient was on a statin or a cholesterol med, and their cholesterol went from 344 to 182, but they stayed on their same dose of medication, then their cholesterol will be way too low. That's when brain fog, infertility, all the crazy things occur. So let's see here. Okay, so make sure you have the proper foods and recipes before you start. I can't say enough about that. The shake you made tonight was a basic one. If you're like, well, I don't know if I could do that 3 times a day, play around with some different things and make it to your taste. Remember the trick of the banana, half a banana per shake. No more than that, because I actually had a practitioner that was doing the cleanse, and he said, I'm gaining weight on this program. We're like, never had that happen before. And so we asked him what he was doing, and usually the verdict is patients are putting too much fruit in their shakes. They're actually doing more fruit than they normally are. We said, what are you doing? He goes, well, I do some fruits and I do a banana in it. He was doing a whole banana per shake, 3 shakes a day for 21 days. He was getting like 63 bananas in that 21 day. Ton of sugar, putting on weight.
Can you put like kale in
Absolutely. If you're just doing green shakes, put anything you want in there. I don't recommend putting Brussels sprouts in there. Just 1 or 2 Brussels sprouts will ruin the whole shake. I've tried it. Avocado? Good question. I think it's a fruit since it has that seed in it, the pit. I think. I don't know. But you can do a half avocado a day. Some actually add avocado to the shake. Makes it really smooth and rich. One more point on the weight loss. Look at not so much the scale that's not moving. Pay attention to how your clothes are fitting. Because body composition will change. And in some cases, the scale stays the same. But especially if someone's working out, muscle weighs more than fat. So even if just you're putting on a little bit of muscle and that weighs more than the fat that's coming off, pay attention to composition. And that's the last word I'll say on that. But communicate with the office. Again, Dr. Reinhardt's done this countless times. Communicate with the office, the ones that live the lifestyle. Are there any questions for me at this point?
What fruit is like banana?
So in the booklet that comes with it, there's a whole list of fruits. And it has the ones that are allowed. In the ones that are allowed, it has an asterisk by the ones that are high on the glycemic index. I recommend avoiding ones with a little asterisk next to it. But the whole list is provided of fruits that you're allowed to have. Same thing for meats and veggies, yes.
On the slide, I know you mentioned like some additional supplements like that if we're exercising during the program. Does the booklet discuss like what to implement or do differently depending on if you're working out or not, or is that something more you would talk to with Dr. Reinhardt or?
talked to Dr. Reinhardt about that. It doesn't go into a lot of detail, mostly because everyone's workout regimen is different. I remember early on when I did the cleanse, I went to do my normal workout, and I took the barbell off the bench press, and it felt like it weighed 1,000,000 pounds because it was like day 3, your body's recovering, there's a lot of stress. So you just have to take it slow. It's different for everyone, so talk to him.
When do you put nuts back in?
Not on the program you have them. So after day 21, that's when you can
So
implement back
no nuts.
in. No nuts.
Hey, Yamana, and I know you this scoop on eggs. How come no eggs?
Eggs is an allergen. And, Dr. Reinhardt tests for that. There's actually an example up here. Egg whites, egg yolk. They're an amazing food. And it's very strange, but sometimes the things we love and the things we crave, we actually have a sensitivity to. And the only way to know that is either through testing, but also through an elimination diet. Which brings up another point. On day 21, you want to introduce one food group at a time. Don't go crazy. Don't go to your favorite restaurant. Just do nuts one day, do dairy another. That's if you feel the need to do it. I recommend if you took something out and you feel fine without it, you know how to cook without it, keep doing it. Coffee is an example of something that typically stays away, and a few months down the road, it starts eating at you, and you do it again. But keep certain things out as long as you want. What was that? Hummus. Hummus, like chickpeas, are technically not allowed on the program. Regular peas are. For things like that, it's a half a cup a day, cooked. That's allowed. Again, they're healthy foods, but we're really watching carbohydrate content.
How come no canned food? Is this canned?
That is a big problem, but more so it's just the nutrients are typically not so great.
Okay.
Typically sodium's added.
How come legumes and quinoa, I know that day 20 or day 11, but how come legumes are okay and not beans?
It just all has to do with carb content. They look at certain foods and whichever ones, some are 20% carb, some are only 2% carb. It all depends on that.
So oats?
Oats or no?
You'll like
Yes,
the 21 days.
Talk to him again.
How about almond milk?
Almond milk's a no.
Coconut milk.
Yeah, you do coconut milk. But almond milk from almonds. And not that certain foods aren't healthy, it's what happened to them after the process. Like quinoa is an amazing food, you can have it, but you can't have quinoa noodles. Almonds are great, but the content of carbs is probably even higher once it comes to milk, I guess. But
Rice milk, you're going to say no.
no.
Can you just explain a little bit about like how the high fat works with this program? Just because I'm curious, because normally we hear that like that's not
Sure.
something to have a lot of.
Well, essentially, every cell in your body needs fats. It's nerve health, brain health. It's a great source of energy. It's a slower type of energy. So you get 9 calories per whatever serving of fat versus like protein and carb. So it's longer sustainable. It's kind of like diesel fuel. But sugars and those other things are quick bursts of fuel. So fat is a long sustainable source of fuel. It's anti-inflammatory. Those are the general things, I guess. But all the research on fats that are bad now, that's correct, is trans fats, hydrogenated fats, those things. That answer your question?
Kind of. I guess I'm sort of like thinking about how you mentioned, and so these might not be like exactly the same thing, obviously, but how you were mentioning how toxins like get stored in fat tissue.
Mhm.
And then so I'm just thinking of like fat on the body and then like eating fats and like how eating fats combats fat, I guess.
Yeah, so, okay, fats we eat generally aren't the fats in our body.
Yeah.
Usually it's excess sugar that contributes to the fat. So the fats we eat doesn't become fat on the body, per se.
Okay.
You have to do a ton of it. And it's not like sugar.
That makes sense.
Olives?
Olives, good I guess this is going to be my short answer to all your questions. If it's not in the book, the answer is no. I don't believe olives are in there. No. I have a master's in nutrition.
Doctors usually know the leads, MDs, I mean, and they're more, they just don't know as much about nutrition.
They just don't have it in their curriculum.
They do, but they don't have it as.
Well, there's a difference between functional nutrition and how many servings of vitamin A do you need a day.
Right.
Then there's a big difference, because having someone go to a medical doctor and getting recommendations of what they can do to naturally lower their cholesterol versus let's pull your blood and see if there's enough vitamin D in it are two different things.
Yeah.
So it's just different. I like standard process because I learn functional nutrition,
right,
which is more important, in my opinion.
Yes.
What about kombucha?
I don't know enough about it to say no.
Okay,
Usually it's processed. I think fermented foods are okay here.
okay.
I don't know. I mean,
Well, because I make my own, so I mean, you have to pour a whole bunch of sugar into it, but then like
I know.
the movie kind of sucks it up so that there's no more sugar in it.
so what are the ingredients you put in it?
It's basically just tea, the sugar that's absorbed into the SCOBY, and that's it.
Yeah. I mean, I would guess since you can't have fruit juice on here
Okay.
and different types of thing, I would guess no.
Okay.
It's awesome for gut health, but I don't know if it's good for the 21 days.
Okay.
Because part of what we're trying to do is, once again, eliminating a lot of sugars. We know a lot of it can go away during the processing
Okay.
that you do. But I would say probably not, just to try to eliminate a lot of the sugars.
Okay.
Another thing when we talk about the fats, eating fats, which is, you also have to remember that your body has several different sources it can use for energy. That one, the first thing it wants to do whenever you're up and moving around, when you're exercising, when you're at work, whatever, the first thing it's going to use is the sugars that's in your bloodstream. We're trying to, as much as we can, other than fruits you're eating, we're trying to eliminate that for 21 days, right? And so even though you're going to have fats, I wouldn't say that there's a ton of fat. I mean, you need to probably add some more in. If we're taking like tuna omega, if you're eating a fish, if you're eating avocados. And so once we get rid of all the sugars that's in our bloodstream, our body says, okay, I need another source of energy. And it has two choices. It's one, depending on the need. If it says, I need energy right now, the quickest way it's going to get fat and sugars are in your blood is by burning muscle. That's not what we want. We don't want to burn muscle, we want to burn fat. And so when it doesn't have that immediate demand, it says, okay, I need some energy, I'm not in a big hurry, I got some time, that's when it starts burning fat. And since when you're eliminating a lot of sugars, it's going to, even though you're eating some fat, it'll use that to burn some energy, but you're not, because of what you're eating is so clean, you're not going to have the same caloric intake, you're not going to have the same, it's not going to be the same as what you're eating normally. And it still will burn that fat as an energy source because you're not getting as much sugar that you're trying to really eliminate.
Sure.
So how many times a year is this actually, like, should we do this? Should we try to do it like once every 6 months?
The common time frame is once a month.
Okay.
That's just what individuals do.
Once a year.
Did I say once a month?
Oh, yeah.
Once a
I was
month.
like,
I do not detox once a month. That last week of the month just go nuts.
Yeah. So, depending on certain health issues, some do it closer, some will do once 6 months, but I would say most of the time, once a month.
I do it once a year.
Okay.
My mom, because of her history,
Yeah.
she does it twice a year.
Okay.
She needs it twice a year just because she's had more history of toxicity.
Okay.
She still has to take Synthroid for
Okay.
her thyroid. She has other extra toxic load things that for her, it's good. For me, I do it once a year, and it's usually, I mean, I feel I need it now after the holidays, but I don't feel like in June that it's big of an issue.
Okay.
What was the question? Oh, ketogenic diet, yeah. This is very similar. I think you're getting more fats in the ketogenic diet, but yeah, same principle.
probably need to talk to you after this. I'm doing a colon cleansing for HSG 3 months, and the pills that I take before each meal sound like they have a lot of good stuff in them like that. How soon could I do this after I get done with that? And I'm trying to get rid of it.
So I don't know much about that. That's probably a Dr. Reinhardt question.
And you can never mention honey. Could you
That's
add
because
a
it's not allowed.
I hope this booklet is very.
No, this booklet it's very user friendly. This is a booklet that's we'll talk about that.
Right. Yeah. So there's a booklet. There's a separate booklet that usually comes with the program. This is like a recipe book. Is really more what it is. And when I first did this, like I was just kind of like, here you go. Like, right, I got this kit. I'm like, I don't know what to do. And I was just like, I made it through it. I did fine, but I didn't have any guidance. And this has been something that it's not included with the kits, but we've included it for people because it's just such a valuable resource. It makes it so much easier because it gives you recipes, it gives you things that you can do, different things to try every day. And then it has a purification pantry list. Keep it simple. If it's on the list, eat it. If it's not on the list, don't eat it. If you have a question, can I eat this? Can I not eat this? Is it listed here? Go for it. Right? And I always tell people, like, don't overthink it. Like, we want to do twice as many vegetables as we do fruits, and half the vegetables we should eat be eating raw. But like my aunt, she did this program last year, and she was like, oh my gosh, I haven't eaten enough vegetables today because I ate too much fruit today, so I'm trying to get in the rest of the vegetables. I'm like, whoa. Just relax. You're good. We're trying to eliminate toxicity. That's the main goal. And so if you're not exactly precise, probably you're having too much sugar, maybe. But I mean, is it going to ruin the detox? No, it's not. So I mean, don't get like legalistic, because if you get stressed out emotionally, it's going to be much more difficult than if you're just going to maybe sit back and enjoy the ride. If it's in there, eat it. If it's not, don't worry about it. If you cheat one time, it's not recommended. You're not going to ruin the detox. If you take your medication while you're doing this, it's still worth doing. You'll still get you'll still get some benefit from it. Is it as good as if you didn't have to take the medication? Probably not. But is there still value in it? Absolutely. So I tell people, like, don't necessarily get all stressed out and hung out on the rules, because it's just emotionally it's very stressful, and that can affect how your body reacts to something like this too. But this is a great resource. It has a ton of great recipes. I always tell people what I do when I'm doing this. I start the morning, I do a huge shake. I drink about half of it for breakfast. I'll pack half of it for lunch. I do a big raw salad. They make fun of me about how big my salads are. Big raw salad for lunch. So I get all my raw vegetables pretty much for lunch. And when I go home, I try to make the last meal of the day feel like I'm actually sitting down and having a meal, not trying to shove down a bunch of more raw veggies. Something I like to do, take a bed of lettuce. I do some stir fry, like some peppers and some mushrooms and some onions. I use some like Mexican seasonings. Some cumin's really good. And then when it gets to like day 11, put some chicken there, like I'm almost doing like a fajita salad, and mash up some avocados, like I'm doing guacamole, a little salsa, and it feels like I'm having a meal at a Mexican restaurant. I love it. We love it. That's one of the favorite meals we have every time that we do this detox. My mom found this one, and it's like 3 vegetables. It's easy. You just chop up a bunch of veggies and stick them in the oven for an hour. And it's like sweet potatoes, and it's like beets, and it's like I forget what all is in it, but it was like so good. It was like a hearty meal this time of year to do. We do a lot of turkey and lentil chili, turkey and lentil like vegetable soup that once again you stick in the crock pot, cook it for a day, and all of a sudden you got a meal for like 3 or 4 days. Or if you get hungry, a little bit. Have you ever seen a Vitamix? If you have a Vitamix, like here's my cheat. Like I'll take some vegetable, I'll have some more fruit that I probably shouldn't one day. Take some vegetables. The powder is actually like a vanilla powder. So take some frozen fruit, mash it. It's called a Vitamix. It's a blender that's just it's a high-end blender, but it's very, very good. It makes everything just smoother. But you can actually mash it up and like make an ice cream. It tastes like strawberry ice cream with vanilla. Yeah, that'd be perfect. Yeah, you use that.
Fruits and vegetables that we're supposed to be for them, right?
Ideally. But once again, I mean, what's that?
mushroom juice. So it's considered to be healthy.
Yeah, that's right.
I don't know why they
Mushrooms
say
are-
that pseudo-baker.
Yeah.
I would say,
Not
I would say
having
vegetable.
cute.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a well
That's a great idea.
Absolutely.
You're stir fry to use olive oil the first 10 days.
So there's, I don't think you're supposed to cook with that. But I think you can use it. A lot of times when I do my salads, I'll use like extra virgin olive oil and like a vinegar. It's good. They have recipes for that in there too.
Yeah, talk about all the oils you can use.
Yeah, I mean this will be in one in everyone. It's just a great resource. If you have more questions, you can dig in here. But just like I said, keep it simple and don't maybe stress out about all the exact rules. And
Is exercise is a must?
It'll definitely help if you feel good, but
yeah. I mean, it depends on the person. It depends on it. Well, I mean, we talk. I mean, if you can get up and movement for everybody is just good. But sweat is another way your body naturally detoxifies. So sweating is actually a good thing, especially during this process. What's that?
Take care of toddler.
Yeah, take care of a toddler. I've got 2 of them. If anybody needs an extra one tomorrow. Awesome. Aren't any more questions? We don't have kits here tonight, but if you're interested, we're going to put in a big order here in the next few days. We're personally starting ours on the 22nd of January, which is a Monday. So if you guys want to do it with us, we'll post on our Facebook page. You can ask us how it's going for us. Check me. Hey, making sure I'm not you yet. I don't think Nathan is going to. I don't think Becky's going to. But myself, Jordan, Sarah's husband, we're all starting on the 22nd. So you guys can come in and you guys can
My
ask us how we're
husband is not doing it because he is not, but I will do it with you. So we will eat vegetable yumminess together.
Yes.
And we'll do great. I mean, I'm really excited about it. I'm the same boat as Dr. Reinhardt. I came in and I was like, I'm so ready to detox. It's my first time detoxing. I'm super excited. So
It's good. So the kits normally for an individual kit is $200 for all the supplements you need. Like I said, we normally one of those books are not included, but we include one of those for people just because, like I said, it's just such a great resource that I think it makes things a lot easier. We also have a couples kit. If you guys are doing it together, instead of $400, it's $375 for a couples kit. So saves you a little more there. We're also offering 10% off through the end of January. So as long as you order before the end of the month, we're offering another 10% off just because we help people hold us accountable too. A list of what's coming. I can have Nathan. We have like a PDF he can email you, and it has more information about it, what you can eat, all the supplements that come with it. Yep. They have, when we talk about the shakes, the ones we did tonight, it's a vegetarian. It has vanilla flavoring in it. I like that the best. I haven't tried the chocolate yet.
That was phenomenal.
Yeah.
Yeah,
There's chocolate
I'm a
ones
chocolate
too.
fan. It's amazing.
There's chocolate ones.
does it satisfy your chocolate craving?
It does actually.
Some chocolate always crazy.
Yeah. So there's 3 different choices. You can have one without flavoring. There's a vanilla. There's a chocolate. So let's go. If you decide to get one. That one was vanilla. I used vanilla. I like the vanilla. So that's why.
But you said that you just use no flavor and you just put some flavor.
We have a powder. So there's a powder that has to go with it, right? The protein powder has to go with it. You have to use one of them for the shakes. You can have one that has no flavor if you don't want any of the flavors. You can have one that's vanilla. You have one that's chocolate. You get to choose. Right.
Actually, it's not sweet.
Right. The thought of doing it is way worse than actually doing it. I always find that sometimes I stress out about, oh my gosh, it's time to detox again. But once I get into it, like, it's been 3 weeks already, so it goes quick. Awesome, guys. Well, that is it for tonight. Myself, Gene's gonna be hanging around if you have any other questions. And if you guys are interested in ordering, we have a order form that taken care of tonight too. And thank you again for your time.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, how do I sign up?
Okay, come see me.
That sounds good.